And one of the most important decisions is who you marry.
Absolutely. Like, I cannot.
Because if I didn't have a supportive husband, well, we probably would be divorced.
Right.
Right. And we really are partners in so many ways, but it's not easy. I mean, it's never going to be easy. And some days, or I read something once that, like marriage isn't 50-50. Some days I come in with 10%.
I agree.
And he comes in with 90. Some days, I come in with 100 and he's at 0, but you have to communicate. Some HR people, higher level individuals, but for the most part, your employees are hourly employees. That is the baseline that I see is the biggest problem with individuals hiring and how to classify an employee who should be an employee.
Also, how many people do we encounter that on paper have all the accomplishments, right? Have gotten to a point of financial stability beyond our wildest comprehension and are like just unhappy.
Oh, yeah.
So
it doesn't really bring
right.
The success or money doesn't equate to happiness.
No. Today on the FoundHers Circle podcast, we have Suhaill Morales. Not only is she a fabulous attorney specializing in employment and human resources law, but she is a mom of 3, business owner, and all-around great person. I know that you're going to find this conversation valuable, and I hope you'll tune in. And Suhaill, thank you so much for joining me. I feel like there's so much to talk about, and I first want to talk about your entrepreneurship journey. Obviously, well, maybe not obviously, you are an attorney and you run your own law firm. How did you get there? And what kind of led you down that path?
So thank you for having me. I know that we've been wanting to do this for a little while.
Yes.
And when we start talking, we don't stop.
No.
So it's always a good time. But I mean, owning my own law firm was never on the cards for me, right? I went to law school. I wanted to work in big law. I wanted a partner office, a corner office, the dream that they kind of sell you in law school. And I did that. So
media.
Yeah, the media, right? Like you see it, you see suits. Everyone has like the big office, right?
Yeah.
No one is talking about owning your own small little firm in Miami.
No.
Right? But that's a reality. And it's a reality that's become much more prominent, I think, in the last few years. And for me, I did big law. I worked in a big law firm. I worked in a small law firm. I had the ability to really be trained by some of the best labor and employment attorneys in the defense world that I think are around in South Florida. And after being in big law for about 7 or so years, I went to a regional firm, South Florida firm here in Coral Gables, and I made partner. I was there, I had my first child there, and then I made partner about a year after I had Max. Then 4 years later, COVID hit. Right, the pandemic, and then it was a little crazy. But I was placed onto what was a subcommittee that was supposed to take over like the management of the firm, right? So there was a management committee with the older attorneys who were handling all the management of the firm. And then there was this new subcommittee of, the younger partners in each office. There was 4 offices, one from each office, and we would kind of talk about the things that we would want to see happening. And that helped. That helped me a lot. It helped me grow. It gave me the opportunity to see a lot of things. And, I had the ability to work with the managing attorney of the entire office. Like our office was based in Coral Gables. His office was across my office.
Wow.
So I saw a lot. And he gave me a lot of responsibility, a lot of authority, and a lot of autonomy. But at the end of the day, it was still his firm.
Right.
And my twins were born in 2021. In 2022, I had like 3 back-to-back federal trials, none of which I could say no to. Right. So I had flexibility, as a partner, but I didn't have the autonomy that I needed to grow.
Right.
During this time, I also learned how to run the firms, right? I had the ability and the exposure to see, what went into running a firm, what I liked, more importantly, what I didn't like. So shortly after, I think, my 3rd trial in April.
I can't fathom that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and they're federal trials, right? So it's not just a week of trial.
Right.
It's a week of trial and a week of prep. It's a week and a half of prep, being away from, 1-year-old twins, right? Which wasn't easy for me. Maybe it would be easier for someone else, but it was really hard, right? And another child, right? So 3 kids at home. Thankfully, my husband is, the most supportive partner. And my mom, I could not do this without my mom. But at some point, did I want to continue down that path?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so I took a step back, and my husband had always, for the last couple, maybe year or so, he was like, why don't you just open your own firm? It's like, I really have no interest in that. Right. I agree. I had no interest in it. I was like, I'm doing great. I have a salary, right? A set salary. We have 3 kids. So at one point I was like, what is a salary worth?
Right. When you start running the numbers.
And how much time was I away from them? And someone I spoke to recently said this, and I had said this before, am I making the same hourly rate as a McDonald's worker based on the number of hours that I'm putting in?
Right. I feel like that's even more pressing in big law too.
100%.
People are like, oh, my salary is whatever, 500, but like, how many hours are you working, really?
Yeah. And we actually, that's so funny that you said that, because when I was in big law, I do traditional labor work. So that's union work. So I'm fully bilingual, and there's not a lot of us younger attorneys who are experienced in traditional labor law and fully bilingual. So I was traveling across the United States constantly.
Right. You were a hot commodity.
I mean, yeah, and it was fun, right? So this corporate flying life was, fun. I would check into a hotel. I had frequent flyer miles, but I barely saw my husband our first year of marriage.
Yeah.
Right. And then when you think about it, how many hours did I really work that year for that bonus?
Right.
What was my hourly rate? Because I was billing thousands of hours a year
for someone else.
Right. And then when you put that into perspective, I thought, well, I could bill half of the amount and still live a comfortable life. Right. And that's what the decision that we made. I don't need to make so much money as long as I get to have some say over the cases that I take or don't take. Right. And that, I had a discussion with my partner. We had some back and forth about me staying and possibly reducing my workload. It wasn't really viable, right? Like, it just wasn't going to work. I was doing still too much. And at the end of the day, I was also commuting, an hour a day each way.
Which is a pressing issue in Miami-Dade County.
Which is huge.
Right.
Huge, and more time that I'm losing, right? So it wasn't for me. Right. So April, I gave about 3 months notice. So I think it's fair, right?
Which is nice of you, because reality is that doesn't always happen.
It doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't. But I thought it was fair. I really, really appreciate the firm that I was at. I appreciate the time that I spent there, how much I learned, the ability that I had to grow there, the wings that they gave me. I see all that. So I didn't want to leave them just high and dry, right? So I gave, 90 days, made sure I closed all my files that I could, left everything as tidy as I could before opening my own firm. And that was it, and I started working from the first day. Wow. Right. I had a client, some of my clients that followed me, and we had an active litigation, and we were off. We were
It wasn't like you just sat down and gave it much thought of, all the technical little things about starting your own firm, or.
No, I mean, and I can't thank my husband enough for the role that he's played, because, he learned IT stuff, right? Yeah. We didn't have an IT person. So he's like, we're going to figure this out. I'm going to figure out how to build a website, and WordPoint or WordPress, whatever it is. And we worked together on so many things, after my full day of work at my firm still, because I was giving notice, we would sit together and, hash things out. Like, where am I going to be? What am I going to do? What programs am I going to use? Because I didn't know.
I mean, that's the best, now, I guess in my position where I'm at, that is the best advice I could give a young person. Like, marry right. Oh my God. It'll pay itself back in dividends. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy from the onset, right? Because you're going to grow together. But a person that is going to be in the trenches with you, that is the hack.
100% hack. I think there's a few very important decisions that you make in life. And one of the most important decisions is who you marry.
Absolutely. Like, I cannot.
Because if I didn't have a supportive husband, well, we probably would be divorced.
Right.
Right? I wouldn't have a supportive husband. I wouldn't have a husband, maybe.
Right.
But, I mean, it's just everything from, hey, I have to network, so, you know, I'm leaving. There's 3 kids.
Right.
You know, we have so much to do, but I need you to pick up here. And we really are partners in so many ways, but it's not easy. I mean, it's never going to be easy. And some days, or I read something once that, you know, like marriage isn't 50-50. Some days I come in with 10%.
I agree.
And he comes in with 90. Some days, you know, I come in with 100 and he's at 0, but you have to communicate.
Right.
But I think having that person, and I think, you know, I think we have to give ourselves credit for having these persons, because we pick these individuals.
Yes. And train them.
Hey, 100%. No, there's a lot of training going on behind the scenes, but not everyone is trainable.
Right. The foundation has to be there.
The foundation. But we make these choices as women. What is important to us in a partner. Right? And not everyone has the same things that are important to them, and that's good. It works out for them. But I knew for me, like having someone that was supportive of my big personality, was very important, right? Because I knew I wanted to go to law school when I was 6 years old. I didn't know I was going to get married.
Right.
So that to me, my career has been something I wanted to do since I was a child. And I always knew that I needed someone that was going to support that.
Right.
And be a part of it. And unfortunately, not everyone is.
And also, like, we have very litigious professions. Like, you need someone that's going to give you the balance of, like, at some point you have to check out of that personality too, right? Because, like, you need peace. And when you go home, you don't want to have to also be battling your husband or your partner.
No, never.
So it has to, like, make sense in that regard too. Because if not, we would always be on battle mode, and like that is just stressing your system out completely.
Yeah, I mean, well, to be fair, I did marry a lawyer. So there is a little bit of litigation going on sometimes at home, but you're right. You know, we're not fighting over certain things because there's just no reason to. Right.
You probably understand that even more so because you have to, you know, go to battle for things that are actually important.
Yeah.
And that kind of gives you perspective for the things that perhaps aren't, like, you know,
100%.
the little things.
Yeah. And I don't know, there's like this meme that's going around. It's like your wife who's like a warrior, and then she comes home and she wants to be like cuddled like a little princess. And I'm like,
that's totally me.
I'm like, sometimes that's what you want.
Yeah. No.
Like I've been fighting for people, and I've been fighting people all day.
Right.
Like all day. And you're right. We are in such a litigious and high litigious.
Right.
They fight about everything. You're like, all right, can I have 2 days to file this? No, you're going to have 1.5 days. And you're like,
right.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? Like, was that necessary?
Right.
But it's all day long.
Yes.
And now I feel like it's not only fighting with the other attorneys, right? It's even fighting with your clients who have access to ChatGPT and put something in, and they think that they have a new claim,
right?
That, you know, they want to file a countersuit, and they don't understand why I cannot go that route, right?
Right.
So we're fighting opposing counsel. We're fighting the judges with their new rules. And now we're fighting our clients that have access to ChatGPT.
The last thing we want to do when we get home is, and I mean, we're also raising kids.
And also raising
which is somewhat of a fight sometimes, right? So the last thing you want to do is be fighting your spouse too. Like, you need like some semblance of peace and, you know, just, I don't know, just not having to be in that constant fight or flight mode.
No, and it makes a huge difference. And at least for us, having someone who understands what it's like to be in the profession, right? To know, like, all right, I know you have had a rough day. Like, this is not the time to talk about whatever I was going to bring up, right? Like, let's tap out until tomorrow.
Yes.
And it takes a lot of growth and learning.
Yes.
It's not always easy.
Right.
Some days we do.
Of course.
You're like, and sometimes we have depositions in my house before 6 o'clock in the morning. You're like, and then your little mini lawyers, right? Because then your kids, right?
Yes.
Then they wake up and they're like trying to negotiate everything, right? And you're like, what?
Right. And they're like mini you, right?
Oh, no, 100%. Yeah. And we we both say that neither one of us wants our kids to be a lawyer,
Right.
right? There's just
Say the same thing.
there's so many better things to do in the world. Whatever makes them happy,
I know.
all right?
I know.
Well, whatever makes my kids happy is what I will support.
But like I've given that a lot of thought. It's like, why is it that does that happen with other professions, right? Are doctors saying, "Oh, I wish my child wouldn't be a doctor"? Or is that a unique aspect of the practice of law? And if it is, what does it say about the practice of law? And like I think we need to change that because we need lawyers.
we need lawyers.
So why is it that we're like, no, we don't want our kids to go into the same profession?
Well, I will tell you why I don't want my children, because I have plans on this.
Yeah.
Right? I've thought about this a lot. And my sister's a doctor, right? And I don't think she's going around saying I don't want my kids to be doctors, right? I don't know anyone else that really. So I wonder the same thing. I think that our profession, I think it used to be really glamorous, like in the 80s. That it used to be really cool. But now it is a thankless,
Yeah.
exhausting, and just there's no way to win,
Right.
right?
And that must be hard for us because we want to win.
We want to win, right? So I win in my cases, but am I winning at things, right?
Right.
And it's become that we, have to be so accessible to everyone,
Yes.
right? And even if we win the case, then we could have done something differently. Or if we win the case, we still build you, so you're not happy because you had to pay our fee.
That is true. I hate that is one aspect of practicing law that I really genuinely dislike.
So there's a lot of thankless work.
Yeah.
And I feel that that's been a big component. Like you go to the doctor and you're like, you leave here, you're like, thank you so much. It doesn't matter what the insurance is going to charge me now, right?
Correct.
But I just saved you thousands of dollars in your business because I revamped something and, I settled this case for you early on so that you didn't get hit with a whole lot of other ones.
Right.
But you didn't like that I told you that you were wrong and that you had to pay me to do that. So now
You're still the bad guy.
just a bad guy.
Right. Right.
So I feel like that a lot of that has gone into our profession. There's no glitz and glam anymore, right? It feels like work.
Yeah.
And it feels like you're doing grueling work for very little pay.
Right.
And I'm not saying like little pay in terms of monetary pay, because some make more than others, but there's not this, overarching, attorneys are not making millions of dollars, right? For the most part. Some are. But a big number of them aren't.
Right.
So when you were wondering, we still need attorneys, I think it's a good thing because I think our market is oversaturated, actually. So we have some of these attorneys who are willing to do this work for very little money.
But are they doing the right kind of
Probably not.
Right. Are they providing the right service, the right product that you really need that is going to have a lasting effect on your business?
Most likely.
Right.
Right. And I think that's what's happening. So there is all of that going on in our profession. So that's what I chalk it up to. We're always on call. We're, always at someone's behest.
Right.
And for what?
Yeah. And that's like something that I think about because technology has served us well, right? Especially as moms. Because the reality is I could be working from home and my child is sick.
Yeah.
Our predecessors probably did not have that option. Right. But the flip side of that is exactly what you just said, that we're available all the time. I get text messages at 7 a.m. I also get text messages at 9. Granted, I'm asleep, but I still get them.
Yeah.
And so you wouldn't feel comfortable calling your physician, right? You're going to go to the ER and it probably truly is an emergency.
Right.
What you're telling me is not. So you battle that with clients and setting that expectation early on. And even when you do, because I often will say, I'm a mom of 4. I run my own business. I am going to do my best to get to you as fast as I can. But all these things take precedence over my cases. And they're like, yeah, you're okay. But when the issue actually arises, do they respect that, right? No. When you go on vacation, do they respect that you have an email set telling them like, I'm not available? No. They'll try some other avenue of communication to try to get to you. So I think for sure in that respect, yes, you're right. Like it's a very difficult profession to go into to maintain a, work-life balance.
Oh, there's no balance.
It's like, or even try, to get there. Which makes me sad because I think, the skills that you learn as an attorney, and most of us go into it with some sort of positive or like wanting to leave some positive mark. And I think the longer you practice, it's harder to come across individuals that still have that same spark, and I don't know if that's true for other professionals.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that's part of what made me want to go off on my own too. Right.
Same.
Like I didn't want to hate something that I wanted to do since I was a child.
Right.
And I still don't hate it.
Right.
Right. And I really love, and people ask, if you weren't a lawyer, what would you be? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I don't have a backup plan. There was no backup plan because there's nothing that I can envision myself doing other than this. Because I'm a really good lawyer.
Right.
Right. I am a really good litigator. I'm a very thoughtful lawyer. So I don't know what else I would do. But I did know that between the new rules and judges, I think this is also what we're feeling, right? Judges forget what it's like to practice. So there's no leniency. There's no, oh, you're on maternity leave, let's give you some time. Right? It doesn't really matter what you have going on. You have to try this case. And at the end of the day, what we're trying is not like for that.
Right.
So when you see that there's like these circumstances, I think it's frustrating.
Right.
And it pins us in a place where you lose that spark. You lose that joy.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to lose it.
It's definitely a difficult position to be in, especially after you've spent, 7, 8 years of your life studying and having the hope of getting out there and just doing positive work and getting compensated for work that you feel is meaningful. It's hard to balance all those ideas at the same time. And like you said, I also went on my own to try to control certain aspects of my day, right? Especially as a mom, which you suffer this, you have the same considerations in your mind every day. I'm basically a secretary for my 4 kids, my husband, and everything that we have going on. So I guess going from having had that experience to then starting your law firm, what it's like to create a business and also have to worry about so many administrative aspects of owning a business, regardless of whether it's a law practice and that's essentially what you do to help individuals and business owners navigate what is employment law, all these intricacies of running a business. And I wanted to touch on that because I think so many people don't have access to that knowledge. And if you could sort of discuss what are the major issues that you see in individuals that start businesses, but really don't understand all the back end.
Yeah. Oh, and it's so many things. So, and this runs a gamut. You could be a lawyer.
Right.
Or a landscaper, right? And I see basically the same issues in that, now that there's a difference, but you think of someone who's been, as a doctorate degree or just someone who is just doing manual labor, right? And I see the same problems in all fields, mostly, right? So when you start a business, there really isn't, there should be, of course, right? What you need, but you start a business, you start on your own. You don't really have to worry about who you're paying or how you're paying them correctly, although you should. Even when you have yourself as an employee, there's tax implications, right? That a lot of people don't think about. When you're opening your business, are you opening it under the correct, entity, right? And it starts there. And that's really not what I get into with the employment law cases. But that really, it starts from there. Are you selecting the right entity that's going to benefit you and be legal?
Right. And also you have to have a little bit of foresight of, okay, maybe you're just a one-man show right now.
Right.
But is that your goal?
Is that your goal?
Right.
Right. And am I going to need other people to help me work? Right. And if so, now we're going to hire someone. And what I see the most is they try to bring someone on as a contractor. And, they're not really an employee. So they think, because I only have one of them.
Right.
And
I
pay,
don't call them.
I pay them with a 1099, right? This is what I hear.
Right.
And they told me they want to be, a contractor. They don't, but that is the biggest problem that we see, especially in South Florida, right? South Florida, the biggest lawsuit that we deal with, that I defend for businesses, is misclassification cases, because most of these people that you're hiring are employees. So if you're a landscaping business and you're hiring someone to do the landscaping, that person is your employee for the most part.
Right.
And you should be paying them. You should be paying them through a W-2. You should have them sign a W-4 as soon as they start working. And you should take taxes. You should pay the payroll taxes. All of this should be going on.
Right.
And what I hear is, oh, it's more expensive for me that way. But what they don't understand is how much more expensive it will be when they get hit with these lawsuits.
Correct.
Because I've seen small businesses go out of business. Right? And so not only are you paying them, you're also paying them overtime. Right? Even if the person tells you they don't want overtime, even if you're paying them more than the minimum wage, right? Because then you have to pay them the minimum wage in Florida, which is higher than the minimum wage federally. Right? Right now it's $14 the hour. In September it'll go up to $15. But they don't see that. And I see this, and then I see the other gamut, right? So in a more professional setting, then I'll get the call from some of my attorney clients, and they're like, well, I'll just put this person on salary so I don't have to pay them overtime. Right. Well, no, that's not the way it works. Most people are not going to be exempt from overtime.
Right.
Fortunately, we're exempt from overtime.
Fortunately, as a business owner, right?
Yeah, as a business owner. There's some executive positions that are going to be exempt from overtime, some HR people, higher level individuals. But for the most part, your employees are hourly employees or what we call non-exempt.
Right.
So even if you're paying them a salary, you still have to pay them overtime on top of that salary.
Right.
So it makes it a little more complicated. Right. So I think that is the baseline that I see is the biggest problem with individuals hiring and how to classify an employee who should be an employee.
What do you think is the barrier of gaining this knowledge? How can we democratize, right? Because the reality is the United States is run by most of the time, like generally most people have small businesses.
Right.
We're not dealing with the Amazons, the Chase, whatever, the bigger entities. It's mom and pops that are running this country. How do we democratize? How do we influence people to start correctly? Right?
Right. And that's the problem, right? And I think that once you're opening a business, there should be some kind of course.
Yes.
That everyone is required to do, right? I think it's just fundamentally, like, there's this course, hey, you're going to open a business, here's business 101. If you hire one person, this is what happens. If you hire multiple people, because then once we hire a certain number of people, aside from these issues, there's also, discrimination laws that apply and things like that. But at the starter, I think there needs to be a foundational training of, these are the basic employment laws that apply. And I mean, I give a course like this for a lot of businesses. I do it in trainings, and it's navigating employment laws, right? In an hour. I walk you through the basic premises of being a small business and what you need to know, right? So an hour is all these individuals would need.
Right. To get at least the bare minimum.
But what I see happen a lot, really is lack of awareness. And South Florida is a very diverse place.
Yes.
And most of the business owners down here are not from here. So they will resort to saying things like, well, in my country,
Right.
I didn't have to do it that way. Right. And I understand. And maybe that's how it worked. And it's just very different. But I think that plays a big role. And the role of, and I've had individuals where I'm paying them more than the minimum wage. Why would I have to pay them overtime?
Right.
Right. They're not trying to not comply.
Yeah. I don't think it comes from a negative space, really. It's more of just lack of information. Right.
100%. And, you get hit with one of these lawsuits and it exposes the company, one, right? Because you either get hit by the individual personally, and then the attorneys are subject to their attorney's fees, right? So they can recuperate their attorney's fees. So there's an incentive to bring these lawsuits.
Right.
They can also open up the lawsuit to seek other people, like a class action of types. So it's big in those cases. And there's the alternative. Let's say the person doesn't go the private route, but they contact the Department of Labor. Now you have the Department of Labor investigating all your employees.
Right. Right. It opens up a can of worms that you're just, as a small business, you're probably not equipped, whether just by knowledge or funds to continue to operate.
At all. So what I tell people when I speak and I give trainings and I give, I try to speak at a lot of local chamber events and things like that, is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Right.
Make sure that if you're opening a business, you contact an attorney. Maybe it'll cost you a few hundred, maybe $1,000.
Right.
But that's going to save you in the long run.
Right. And it's funny because I have this conversation often. We're so hesitant to be proactive, right? Like I don't know if it's our nature, but we are like so good at being reactive, but we could solve a lot of those problems if we just switched our mode and to being proactive. 100%. And making sure, because these issues most of the time are not really unique, right? We know that you're going to be hit with certain lawsuits, or you want to prevent certain lawsuits. Like, what you have to do.
Yeah.
It's a matter of thinking from a different angle, being proactive rather than reactive.
And what I wish some of these businesses would do, and I just had this conversation with my client, right? They're like, well, in the industry, a lot of people do it this way, right? So I'm getting hit, right? I'm going to go tell my friends, hey, this is what's happening. You guys should really look into it.
Right.
But instead, it's like, well, this is what I did wrong. Like, try to figure out how you can, dodge it. And I get it. I don't know why, to your point, I don't know why it's so hard for us to be proactive. And I was just having this discussion actually with my husband, because I've tried to move my focus from litigation to a proactive stance where I provide counseling, I provide coaching. I have a retainer program where, my employer clients can call me before they do anything, right? Before they hire, before they discipline, before they fire, right? Which is super helpful.
Absolutely. I think that's priceless.
And inexpensive, right? Because it's not
relative
to what you're
the alternative.
But I've had a lot of reluctance. And then I get the same individuals who called me questioning my retainer program a few months later when they're here with a lawsuit. Right? And now, I wish you would have called me and we would have been working together, because I could have helped you, document that hiring. I could have told you, hey, that person is not exempt from overtime.
Right.
Or, you've now hit 5 employees, you're in Miami-Dade County, the discrimination laws apply.
Right.
Right. Because that's, once you start scaling, you're starting to look at different laws that are going to apply. So now you're not just looking at whether or not you classified an employee correctly, but whether or not you're treating them correctly. And I think that's what it moves to, right? I think it's layers, right? So I think the first layer is, am I classifying my employees correctly? Then when you hit a different number of employees, in Miami-Dade County, it's 5.
5, okay.
But in the state of Florida, it's 15.
Right. That's the intricacy of this too, is that it's like you have countywide, statewide, and then federal.
Yeah. And so there's different layers. So I always say whatever county you're in may have an ordinance. So go by the most protective, right?
Or municipality.
Yes. Yes, because Miami Beach has their own.
Yes.
But you look at where you're at and you say, okay, now it's not just about classifying. Now it's about employee protections, right? And it's about treating people correctly. So first you're classifying people correctly, then you're treating people correctly.
Yeah.
Right? Then you're making sure not only are you as the owner, but are your managers, right? Because there's also liability for actions of your managers. Is your manager allowing people to work off the clock?
Right.
Right? That's a huge, off the clock work, it's so frequent.
Right.
Especially now we were talking about devices, right? So let me just message my client at night.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, that's
But if
incomplete.
they're an employee, right? Let me just send them a text and email them. How much time is your employee spending checking emails after hours?
Right.
And then we get to, okay, these are like the mid-sized businesses, and then we hit 50 employees, right? Now, you're really talking about employee protections,
Right.
right? Because you're talking about family medical leave. Now you have to give leave, right? In Florida, until then, you weren't required to really give leave.
Right.
There's domestic violence leave. There's all of these different protections for employees that hit once you hit 50 employees. And people don't know that
Right.
because they grew from 5 to 50 very quickly.
Right. And it's difficult because, if we take off our attorney hat, right? And we think about the logistics, you have so much on your plate.
Oh my gosh.
You're so in it to try to scale to that level and dealing with your day-to-day decisions. And it's like to add another layer, right, of responsibility is definitely, it weighs on you.
Oh, 100%.
So I guess, the lesson is like you need to bring on someone
That knows what they're doing.
and that's what they're doing.
And this is what I tell my clients all the time. Like, you don't have time to run your business and handle employee issues. Because that's a whole other full-time job sometimes.
Right. I mean, most companies hire someone to just do that.
Just do that.
HR, right?
So when you're the owner or the manager and you're also handling those things, it's okay as long as, you're small enough.
Right.
Once you get over 5 employees, you should not be handling that yourself.
Right.
There are a lot of options nowadays, which I think is great. Like there's fractional HR. So you don't have to bring in a full HR person, right? And I think some of those businesses are very good. But you also want to vet these businesses to make sure that they're doing it correctly. You also want to vet the person if you're bringing in a full-time HR person, right? Because I've had conversations with someone, they're like, oh, I've worked in HR for, 30 years, but they didn't realize some basic principles.
Right. They're not necessarily doing it right. It doesn't matter necessarily how much time you've been doing something, but have you been doing it correctly?
So I think my biggest point for any business owner, right, whether it be us or it be, our clients, is make sure you're properly resourced. It is okay to ask for help. It is okay not to do it all yourself. In fact, I would encourage you. If you're really good at running a business, kudos to you. But that means that there's all these employee issues that you don't have to be good at.
Right.
But someone else will be. And get help before you need help.
Right. It's funny because like we talk about all these issues and it's like I'm interested in business, like I told you, and entrepreneurship and like understanding how people make the decision to take that leap, because you had all these tangential issues that you don't necessarily think about before you start a business.
No.
But you're definitely going to be exposed to it
100%.
in one way or another. And yet people still do it, right? Like people think, yes, I could do it better. I could do it more efficiently. I have a better idea or whatever. So what is it about these individuals? What is it about us that we still engage in that? And it has to be like a characteristic that gets like
Aside from the language frontal lobe, I don't know. I don't know if it's something in us that is like has to prove something, right? Because I think that is a lot. First generation immigrant children have a lot to prove, right? So I don't discount the role that plays in everything, right? And I think, and it might be true for you, but I remember my grandfather, like having his own business was like the American dream, right? So I think that component is there, and just knowing that others do it that are not as equipped as we are.
Right.
And they seem to be okay.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, well, if they can do it, I mean,
Right.
I can figure it out.
Yeah. But that realization is like unique, right? Not everyone has that. Yeah. And I don't know. I find that fascinating that some individuals do have that ability to compartmentalize all the negative that could go wrong, and they still engage in that. And I don't think one is better than the other, right? Because I think we definitely need employees. We need people that want the stability of a salary or paycheck. But I don't know. I just find that interesting. And when I see it in other people, I'm like, Yeah. I like, because maybe I at 6, I didn't know if I wanted to be an attorney, but I knew I wanted to have my own business.
Yeah. You see, and I did not know that. Right.
Right.
And sometimes maybe it takes someone pushing you for you to figure out what you need.
Right. Or a life event.
Or like, yeah.
Yeah.
Like something like, okay, like there's more to this, right? I can do more if I allow myself, right? It's giving yourself the upper, yeah. And I think for me, and I don't know if this happened to you, like there's this idea of if you're a lawyer, you're in these big ivory towers and you're in a firm and that's what's prestigious as a lawyer, right? It's like this big deal, but really, is it? That's what's sold to us, right? Yeah. That's what they tell us in law school. That's what the TVs tell us. But I found out once I was able to take a step back and think, that doesn't really equate to what I think it means, right? It doesn't give me the value as a lawyer. I am still a fantastic lawyer, whether I'm on my own or whether I'm at a firm.
Right.
And it is taking that step back to see that, because I think that holds a lot of people back.
Yes. I also think that comes with experience, right? And when I talk about when I first came out of law school, I was so afraid to be in court all the time because I thought they knew something I didn't, or they had something that I didn't. Yeah. And I don't think there was one event that probably changed my perspective on that, but it was time and seeing like, okay, and having interactions with these individuals, and they're like, well, maybe they don't have something.
I know.
And it's like when you understand that we're all humans, and like one doesn't make it, having a degree doesn't make you better than someone else, or having sometimes practice for 50 years and you're like, well, that's not how I would practice.
100%.
And you're like, I think that takes time. Yeah, maybe there is that law student that comes right out of law school and has that perspective, and if they do, it's probably because they've lived through something beforehand.
I agree.
But for me, I went straight from college right into law school. I didn't have, like so much world experience to give me that perspective. But now also I've given birth 4 times and I'm like, is there something I can? Like I think that gives you
listen, I feel the same way. I still say that birthing my twins was
same.
One of the most incredible things, and I don't know if it's an accomplishment, but one of my highlights, right? If I could do that the way I did it, like I can do anything,
right?
Like it just feels like that was a something that I like. I don't know, like not an obstacle, but just something that I like surpassed in such a way that like that moment still, I can close my eyes and I visualize that exact moment going into the OR, everything that happened. And it was just amazing. And it was like 10 minutes because they were going back to back, but vividly remember that moment. And I think, we create humans inside of us. We birth these humans. We can do anything.
Right.
We just have to believe in ourselves enough.
And also, how many people do we encounter that on paper have all the accomplishments, right? Have gotten to a point of financial stability beyond our wildest comprehension and are like just unhappy.
Yeah. So it doesn't really bring the success or money doesn't equate to happiness.
And you don't have that perspective when you're really young, because at that point you're not thinking necessarily about a family and like what your day-to-day looks like. And that's my advice to attorney or young professionals that aspire to be attorneys. I said, like, you need to shadow an attorney.
Yes.
And see what their day-to-day looks like. And if that's not something that aligns with how you want to live your life, law schools are not.
No.
Because one thing is in theory and another thing is in practice. And whether that be, so many people are like, big law is like, that's the epitome, right? That's what.
Yeah, that's the whole. Yeah.
Because that's what they sell to you.
100%.
And then you live in, you're like, whoa, this is not for me.
This is not.
So I think that would be my best advice for people that are thinking about going into law. Like, you need to see what the day-to-day looks like, and also understand that you could do it differently.
Yeah. 100%. But I think that also comes with experience, because like you said, like it is experience and it's living it. Right. And I did big law, and I think big law was great. it was a wonderful experience for me in my 20s. I thrived in that environment because I'm a good lawyer, because I also knew I wanted to be a lawyer. I had no questions about it. So I was doing great. But I also knew that when it came time to, I want to start a family,
Right.
this is not where I want to be. And that was basically the decision for me.
Right.
You know, I was traveling. I remember I was in this really big union campaign in Texas. And when I came back, I was like, I think I was turning 31. I'm like, they're going to start trying to have kids soon. So I don't want to keep doing this.
Yeah.
This is not the life that I want for my children, where they don't see me because I'm traveling every month. Right. So it's trying and reevaluating.
Right.
And not being afraid to change your mind when things aren't working.
That's huge. And something, I mean, I struggle with all the time.
We all do.
Right.
Just because we've invested this much time into something doesn't mean we can't change our mind and do something else.
Right.
Right? Because there's still so much more time for us to go.
Right. And it's like understanding that life is not linear.
No.
Like we think like this A, B, C, D, like that is the progression of our lives, when in reality it's here, 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 you know, like you just take detours. And in retrospect, you know, like after a while you realize, oh, that makes sense. Why I
how
had to
you're
do
in
that.
it, it's
Right.
crazy.
Right. Right. Well, I guess that's a perfect place to end this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on. We could talk about this forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
Forever. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you found this information valuable. If you did, don't forget to subscribe and share.